Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this leadership forum featuring Maura award-winning recipient Jamila Thomas. Yes, this beautiful woman in red. That's a color of power,
Thank you.
which is appropriate for our EmPOWERing mentorship session. We are going to explore the power of guidance and sponsorship to propel our next generation of leaders. I also want to tell you to smile for the camera because we plan to record, and that's so that all of you can see the panels you weren't able to go to, and they can see this one. So just remember, it's like Oprah, some of these other talk shows. When the camera's on you, you want to smile. Now, we are going to have questions, but we're going to wait until the end of the session. So just make a mental note. I'll try to get to everybody, but if you could hold them to the end, that would be wonderful. Now, I want to introduce our Maura Women Helping Women Award recipient, Jamila. I want to tell you a little bit more about her. She serves as the Senior Vice President for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and she's responsible for establishing the strategic plan for corporate and community engagement. She also serves as an executive board member for Pipelines to Possibilities, an organization founded by 4 African American women judges focused on educating students on the justice system. Jamila helped establish the first racial equity office in Dallas ISD and founded Cultured Consulting Group, an organization committed to the implementation of culturally responsive leadership best practices, which is wonderful. I think I want to consult with you and learn more about that. Now, let me introduce our forum moderator. She is a strong supporter of Texas Women's Foundation, Meranda Cohen, in the beautiful pink. She has extensive experience in the field of communications and media relations. She started her career in radio and broadcast on the Kid Craddock in the Morning show. Many of you have heard of Kid Craddock in the Morning. She was also with KFDA News Channel 10 and News 9 San Antonio as a reporter. I bet you have a lot of stories you could share with us. She went on to work in communications for the city of San Antonio and also the city of Dallas. Her current role is with Vistra Corporation, where she's held various roles, including, and it's a number of things, corporate spokesperson, director of corporate affairs, and chief spokesperson and senior director of communications and media relations. Meranda, we really appreciate you being here, helping us out with this forum today, and to continue this conversation about female empowerment and leadership. So I'm going to turn things over to you to get it started. Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, I'm so honored to be here, and I know I speak on behalf of my coworkers who are in the room and the rest of our company that we're just so honored to be a part of today's event that talks about empowering women. And two of the core values that our company has is we do business the right way, and we care about the communities where we live, work, and play. And part of that is supporting organizations like Texas Women's Foundation that are making such a difference in the community. What I love about these sessions is that we really get to deep dive and get to know the award recipients, which I think is pretty unique. A lot of times you see people get honored and you're like, well, I'm sure they did something wonderful, but I have no idea about them. But you guys are in for a treat. And if you are a note taker, grab your pen or grab your cell phone, whatever it is you use these days, because I promise you, you're going to go home with some words of wisdom. Plenty of little nuggets. So let's get started, Jamila. Okay. You should know that somehow she has packed a tremendous amount of experience in a short amount of time. You've worked in the corporate world, you've worked in nonprofits, you've worked for school districts. So tell us a little bit what your journey looked like and how you got to where you are today.
No, thank you. First of all, thank you all so much for this opportunity. I'm just happy to be in this space with all these amazing women and men. And it's an opportunity of a lifetime. So just honored and humbled by just just the grace of God. I'll put it that way. So how did I get started? Oh, man, here we go. Okay, so I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, grew up in Oak Cliff, went to Lincoln High School. I'm a product of Dallas Independent School District. After leaving there, went on to Florida A&M University, where I did an undergraduate in business, and I'm, a nerd, so I went ahead and got my MBA while I was there. And so after leaving there, I got a job offer that moved me to Chicago. So I was in Chicago for about 12 years. And while I was there working in the corporate space, I just recognized that God had called me to some deeper activities in the community. And so as a result of that, I started my own nonprofit working with young girls who actually were incarcerated. And I don't know if any of you have ever went into prisons or not, but it's a pretty intense place. But while I was there, I went in naive, right? I want to save the world. I want to go mentor girls. And what I found is that they really changed my life. And there was one particular experience where I was doing this really unique game with girls where we could ask any question you want to ask. Okay, so we're in the prison, so the questions range from sex to Jesus, if I'm being honest. They just ranged. It was a lot of questions being asked, right? And so as a result of that, one of the questions that was posed was, is God here? Now, we're talking about girls that are between the age of 13 and 17. And they've had a range of experiences in the city of Chicago. And so my initial reaction was, thank you for asking that question because now you've invited God in, right? And so as a result of that, I got the call to go back to school. So I went to the University of Chicago Divinity School where I have a Master's of Arts in Divinity. So after doing that work while in Chicago and serving as the first African-American woman director organization that had been around for about 70 years. Okay, do the math on that. 70, y'all been around 70 years, y'all could have found one woman at all? A woman of color? Not one? Okay. But there's something about being the first that I think is important to note here. And what I've learned over time is that trailblazers are least likely to take the trail that they've blazed. And so it's important as women that we recognize that when we're blazing trails, you may be the first, but you're not the last. And so your path illuminates the path for other women to come behind you. And so over the course of time, in my professional experience, I've been the first a lot of times. And so in my work with Dallas Independent School District and creating the Racial Equity Office, a lot of my work was around building culturally responsive practices for all children, Black, white, Asian Pacific Islander, you name it, right? And so being in that space really taught me the beauty of humanity, particularly as it relates to how women can encourage and empower one another. I would argue if you are not empowering women around you, the question is, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What have you been called to do? And so I'm grateful to be in a space where I'm being honored for just recognizing that we have a lot of power as women. And if we don't use it wisely, shame on us. Shame on us. So I encourage you, as you walk into spaces, whether you're the first or potentially the last, that you leave a legacy that really speaks to the power of your purpose and your gift. And so that's been who I've been over these last couple of years and what I'm trying to do, right, and where God is leading me. And I'll have an announcement at the end here.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper to that experience of walking into a job and realizing nobody's done this before. How does that change you? How does that open your eyes to what's going on around you?
Yeah. I think the first thing is recognizing that everybody's not excited for you, being the first, and walking into spaces where you if you are the first, you're thinking like, people are excited that I'm here. I have so much to give, so many talents I want to share with the world. And there are people that just aren't as happy as you are. And so what I learned from that experience is that it's not about me, it's about them. It's their issue, right? But also recognizing that I need to come equipped. I need to be prepared. I'm a nerd by trade. So I love reading, I love writing, I love educating myself on different opportunities and things that I may not have experienced in education sort of, blanketly. And so being prepared is so critically important. And what does that mean? That means that you're talking to people, you're asking for help, you're asking for guidance. And even in those spaces where you may not be received as well, I think humility sort of sets the tone for others. When you're operating in humility, people have a tendency to want to help if you're operating in humility. If you're operating in a different type of vein, then people are less likely to help you. So walking in those positions where I've been the first has been a challenge because many times it's been men that have been in a position of power. And so I mean, I learned how to golf a little bit, but, you know, I'm not at the bar smoking cigars, but I found my lane. Specifically in the world that I was in Chicago, I was working in insurance. And if anybody's been in insurance, sales, go figure, right? So calling on brokerage firms, and it was pretty tough. And being young and African-American woman in Chicago, in the heart of the city, was quite a challenge. But I learned that being authentic, being myself, spoke volumes. I think that color sometimes has a tendency to get in the way of things. But what I would say trumps all things is character. Your character will trump any situation. And so that's what I took with me in those different circumstances.
So one thing that stands out to me about your particular style of leadership is time after time, you have created roles for yourself.
Yeah.
So tell our friends about that.
Okay. So the first role I would say that I created for myself was in Chicago when I was working at I was working in insurance sales, and then I got a call from a brokerage firm saying, hey, we love what you do. We see you out in the community. We see you're trying to do big business down here. Would you come over to our organization? And at the time, there again had not been an African-American woman in that position, and so I'm walking in new. And so this is when I learned the power of negotiation. Women, ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. You'll be surprised at what you can get. So after going through this negotiation process, in the back end, I was like, oh, they're really saying yes to this stuff, right? But asking because I knew what I was capable of. I knew what I represented. I knew I had the education, so why not ask for top dollar? Why not ask for the title that I wanted? So I posed the question because I think at the time, I think the roles were like assistant director and some other things. And so I was like, well, let me ask for associate director, see what they say. And they came back and said yes. I'm like, well, all right, here we go. And so after that, after sort of leaning into that role and really educating myself about the role and understanding sort of the dynamic of healthcare insurance, after leaning into that, I recognized, okay, I'm going to take that same skill set and apply that everywhere I go, everywhere I go. And so after leaving Chicago after some turbulent times, and then coming back home to Dallas, I served as pastor of outreach at St. Luke Community United Methodist Church. So in my background, I was responsible for everything outreach. So you're talking about bread basket, mentoring programs at schools, homeless. I mean, it was just, I had about 15 ministries. I'm like, what is going on? But hey, that's the church, right? You serve and you serve well. And so as a result of that, I was doing a lot of work in the community. So I received a phone call from the district saying, hey, you're at the schools all the time. Why don't you just come over and work for the district? I'm like, I don't know, right? So I prayed about it, and God literally told me, whatever you're saying in the pulpit needs to hit the pavement. I was like, oh, okay. So I accepted a position with Dallas Independent School District, and I started working in the African American Success Initiative. It was there that I began to cultivate really understanding sort of education, right? The politics of it all, how it works, what doesn't work, and how I could be of service. And so during that time, it was right around the time we were having discussions around equity. Now, this is pre the proliferation of DEI as it is today, right? So this was a heavy lift at the time. And so I was tasked with saying, hey, what do you think about equity? What do you think about racial equity? What does it mean to you? And at the time, I didn't have an answer. I was really dumb thinking, I'm coming in thinking my character trumps everything, not recognizing that I'm being judged as soon as I walk in the door, whether I want to be or not, right? And so that really taught me how to really think about the dynamics of society, the society that we live in a variety of ways. And so when I got the call to say, hey, what do you think about it? I said, well, this is what I think, after doing a lot of research. And they said, well, how about you develop the office? Well, all right, I will. I'm a consultant by trade, so why not? So that was the first step, right? So asking for what I wanted, building out this programmatic engagement for a large school system. We're talking about 20,000 employees, 158,000 students. It was a heavy, heavy lift. Not to mention the board, the trustees. If you ever walked the Dallas ISD board meeting, okay, y'all know how that goes. So beautiful people, beautiful, beautiful hearts, right? But it was intense. So, and recognizing that I have to figure out a way to really get these people to see my heart. And I just believe when you get to the heart of the matter, you can talk about anything. And so that was sort of that led me into the success of building out the Racial Equity Office, creating my own position, and then creating positions for others. So
let's talk about a little bit about adversity.
Oh,
because this is also the office where some of that comes into play in your career. Talk a little bit about that situation.
Yeah, so I'm being recorded, right? So the truth is important. And as I was curating those experiences for young people, and that was always my foundation, I was thinking about the children, period. It didn't matter who I was talking to. The forefront of my mind were the children. How can we give them resources and everything that they need to survive and thrive once they have matriculated through school, right? And so that includes the teachers. And my mom's a third-year educator, so I grew up in a home where education was critically important. And so after kind of going through this 2 to 3 year process of researching companies and nonprofits and school systems across the country for about 2 to 3 years, I built out sort of a 5 to 7 year strategic plan and presented it to the deputy superintendent at the time, and he was like, okay, I wasn't expecting all this. I mean, you asked me to do this, so if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, right? Especially as women, y'all know how we do. We're going to do it right. It's going to be succinct and in order. In order. So so this 5 to 7 year strategic plan, everything's laid out. All you have to do is follow the plan. Just follow the plan. And so they were really excited about it. Got a lot of great feedback from the powers that be. And I was told that I would need to hand over this entity to someone else to run. Now, a part of me was like, okay, hey, listen, remember, it's been about the children the whole time. This is not about me. This is not about anyone else about the children. So it doesn't matter who runs it. But you know we're human, right? I mean, you create something, you birth the baby, you want to feed the baby, right? And you do not want to see someone starve your baby. So it took a while to get through that and recognizing what my purpose is. But again, I recognize that sometimes you're called to positions, you're not called to stay, you're called to deliver and then hand over. And whether you want to or not, and you go on to the next. You go on to the next. And so after handing over this beautiful baby, I had to interview for my position that I created for myself, right? So there's some trauma in that. There's some trauma in that, right? But I recognize that it wasn't about me. It was about the children. And my prayer was just that whoever takes this on, whoever did take it on, that they will always keep the children first. So adversity exists, but there's beauty in the dirt, right? Every beautiful plant is planted. If you're a planter, you work with flowers, you know that those seeds are buried in deep, dark places. That does not mean they're not growing, right? That just means you have to water them. And so I said, okay, I just got to water myself. I got to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with people and friends and family and opportunities that will help me to continue to grow, regardless of what it looks like.
Well, speaking of your purpose, I think that one of the most amazing things that I know about you in the short time we've known each other is this nonprofit you created, Women Divine. And just tell us what it is and how it continues to bless you and you continue to grow and bless other people.
Thank you for asking that question. So when I was in Chicago, working through my own professional life and wanting to grow and to learn, remember I talked about the young ladies that were incarcerated, and as a result of that, continued to work with those girls. But then I was thinking, well, maybe if I could get to the girls before they enter here. Like, what if I go to the high schools and work with them there? And so I brought together about 7 really, really close friends in Chicago, women from all walks of life, stay-at-home moms, lawyers, teachers. I mean, their experiences ran the gamut, and I think there's beauty in that. And so we got together and kind of pulled out this sort of framework about, okay, what do we want to do? And we just want to empower young ladies to be able to be your authentic self, be able to live the life that you want to lead regardless of your circumstances. And number one, ask for help. Like, ask for help. And I think a lot of times as women, we just do it. But we all need help. We all need people in our corner. And so I wanted our young girls to see that, but I also wanted them to see as a cohort how they could lift one another. And so after having this conversation with the women, we crafted sort of this curriculum around each month we would do something, whether it was go to a park, whether it was college career stuff, whether it was just getting to know one another, playing games, just really building a sisterhood over time. And so that was 2011, I believe, it was like 2010, 2011. And so those girls are still in my life. Now they're married, they have children, they've started their own nonprofits. One of them just recently started a nonprofit where she was giving out awards, and she honored me, and I was just a mess. I was just a complete mess trying to accept this award, right? And so, but that is the power of Women Divine, this idea that it's perpetual service, that as you pour into women, as you pour into the ladies that's in your life, as you pour into young people especially, you are watering seeds that you will see blossom, and it will blow your mind. And that's always been what Women Divine has been about from the very beginning. It was literally just a seed that was planted in me. I knew I had women in my life, and some of my best friends are right here in the front. We've been knowing each other since we were like second grade, first grade. Yeah, so so that's cultivated in me a lifelong appreciation for the power of women if you're committed to it, if you're intentional about it. And that's key, being intentional about the relationships that you establish, especially when you're talking about young people, when you're pouring into them. You can't be fickle. You have to be consistent because they see the truth. And they'll see the truth in you too and call you out on it too.
What I love about what you created is there is so much competition amongst women, amongst young girls, and you're teaching them not only that there are women who maybe aren't in their family that they can lean on, but you're also creating this community of peers to show them how to be good friends and support each other.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't do it alone, you know. And, you know, it's also important to open up your heart and your mind to new people that enter in your life, right? That's building I like to call them concentric circles, where you have these, everybody can't be in all the circles, let's be clear. And we've all had those experiences, right? We're like, that person doesn't fit here, so let's figure that out. But having these concentric circles where you have women and men around you that are uplifting you and you're uplifting them, and it's one of those ideas where you can really help to pour into people and they're pouring into you. I would argue if there's a person in your life that's not pouring into you, you have to ask, why are they here? Like, why are they here if they're not pouring into me? The past couple of years, I made a commitment. I said, you know, if it's not serving me well, then I have to let it go. If it's not serving me well, it's not serving my community well, if it's not serving my family well, why is it in my life? And those are some hard decisions that I'm sure all of us in this room have had to make in a number of ways, right? But that's something that one of my mantras is, if it doesn't serve you well, you got to really question why is it there. And sometimes it has to do with trauma. We're just in those trauma bonding situations, right? So being aware of that comes from therapy. So you're welcome. Just saying, therapy is good. Yeah, it is. It really is.
So let's talk a little bit more about mentorship.
Okay.
And the traditional mentorship that we all think about, maybe in a work setting. And is there someone that has been, someone in particular that's been a great mentor for you, or a mentee that has had, you know, a big mark on your life?
I've had a number of mentors in my life, a number of them. And some of them they don't even know.
Right.
Some of them they just don't know. And because I've kept them in my life purposefully, because they've poured into me in ways that I just I couldn't pay for, you know. And so I think that it comes with ebbs and flows of life, because you enter in different seasons of your life. And sometimes you outgrow those relationships, and that's okay. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with that. But I think there are mentors that are in your life right now that potentially have been there for a while, and some that are being cultivated now as we speak collectively in this moment. And so for me, I'm always looking for ways that not only that I can pour into people, but that I can seek wise counsel from others as well. And that intentionality around making sure that you keep those people in your life is so important. There's one mentor, and I'm going to call her out, Dr. Cynthia Wilson. She was the chief of staff for Dallas ISD. And I just held on to her. So I'll every now and then I'll just send her a song. She was like, I've been thinking about you, you know. And so she was one of the ones that I went to during that really rough time. And she's held on to me, and I've held on to her. And then there's women in my life like Jakarsha, Simone, Adrian, and Alice, these ladies in the front row, who I will never let go of. I mean, never. They will have to do something. They couldn't do anything. They know all the secrets. Yeah. Then there's some women here from Faith Family Academy who they don't even know that they're mentors to me as well. I lean into them. They lean into me. We have sort of weekly meetings, and they're guiding me. I'm learning from them. I mean, so mentorship comes in a lot of different forms is my point. Ashia, like I don't want to call people. Samaje's back there, right? So there's women in my life where I literally have held on to purposely, because they each have a special place for me in my heart, and they guide me and they lead me in ways. And I can just pick up the phone and say, hey, what are you thinking? and they'll give me the accurate answer. They'll give me the truth, and so that's important.
So let's flip that.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the things that you would encourage us to do if we want to mentor someone else.
Yeah.
What are some easy things we can do?
My number one thing is be authentic. Always be authentic. And, you know, everybody doesn't have to hear your story, but sometimes that's important for people to hear your story, to hear you know, how you got to where you are. Because it's not always roses and berries, and it's not always that way. Sometimes it's some deep things that have happened, but I would argue those are the things that really help people get through. I like to say that, you know, the experiences that we have are for other people. They're for other people. It's the journey's for us. Like when you can see the end of the journey, but those experiences that you're going through, those trying times and those good times too, those are what others need to hear, because they need to see that, okay, you made it through that, I can too, right? If you made it through this, then perhaps I can too. And so it's those moments that I think help us to cultivate the importance of community. And so community is important when it comes to mentorship. Who are you looking to mentor? Have you even leaned into the opportunity to mentor? And there may be people in your life, whether it's your children, your nieces, your nephews, whoever they may be, or individuals in school systems which are in dire need of people to lean into. It's critically important. So you got to ask yourself, you got a heart question too. You know, why do I want to do this? Okay, is there an ulterior motive here? Or is it truly I care about the people that I want to serve? So.
I love that. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. Mm-hmm. And servant leadership seems to define your life. Mm-hmm. But what would you say has helped you advance? You've created so many paths for yourself. Mm-hmm. What has helped you advance in those leadership roles?
Yeah. Serving others is true. I mean, I think that people see the value in wanting to serve others. Because something happens when you are not focused on yourself. When you're operating with a sense of humility, something beautiful happens where the lines of communication open, the lines of opportunity open. People start to lean on you and lean into you because they recognize that you're not concerned about yourself. Those success, those awards, those things, that's going to come. Even in this position right here, somebody in this audience is probably going to be up here next year. Mm-hmm. That's my hope and my prayer for you, right? If that's what you desire. So it's one of those things where if you're not serving, if you've been called to serve, the question is, what is it that you've been called to do in different spaces? And I think that is evident and opportune, whether it's the workplace or your church or synagogue, wherever you are, and there's an opportunity for you to serve others, it just opens up so many opportunities for you to be used, for your gifts and talents to be used. I think that I look at life almost like a puzzle piece that, you think about a puzzle, and those who do puzzles, or 1,000 pieces, 2 pieces. But every piece has a very succinct click, right? And when it doesn't click. It's like, okay, that's a word. Let me try this piece. And that's how I view people. I think all of us have gifts and talents that are a part of this large puzzle piece of humanity. And when your piece is not there, when your gift and your talent is not there, it's not complete. It's just not complete. And so for me, when I think about service, it's serving others, because my gift can help you. Your gift can help me. I 100% agree with that, because I've never been in a situation where there's not been true. I can almost guarantee there's someone in this room that I can count on right now because I need them for something. And it may not be for me, but it may be for someone else. I've always prayed that I'm in a position where, how you see all those movie shows, or maybe it's Olivia Pope, I don't know. But the point is, how someone says, I've been looking for this, or I need this. And you're like, hold on. Hello? Yeah, so. Call her. That's what I prayed for, to be in a position where I can be of service. When someone calls me, if I don't have the answer, man, I bet you I know someone that does, right? If you're looking for an opportunity, if you're looking for a job, trust me, I'm going to call somebody for you, because I think that's the part of the puzzle piece. That's the gift of humanity, that we're supposed to be called to serve one another. So I've always felt that that's been the truth. Mm-hmm. Servant leadership. I mean, there's a bunch of other, transformational leadership, because I'm a nerd, and there's transitional leadership, all these different leadership theories, but servant leadership is my favorite. It's my favorite. Yeah.
Well, one interesting thing we talked about last week is Jamila has a son and a daughter, and I'm a boy mom. And we just talked about the importance of having men allies when it comes to advancing. But we have an obligation, too, as boy moms, to raise good boys who turn into good men, who support women. And we were laughing. My boys really cannot figure out why a woman has not been president yet. They're like, you run this house. Like, can we run the country?
Right?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, though we were talking about this because Braylon, my son, who is 6, well, no, he's 13. He was 6 at the time. So I told her the story about, so he's playing soccer. Y'all know, we're on the soccer fields, the basketball field, we're just everywhere, right? And so we're on the soccer field. And this particular time, the boys' team forfeited for some reason. It was like 6 o'clock in the evening. We're like, well, okay, we just forfeited the game. But there was a girls' team. And so they're like, well, we'll play. And so the boys, Braylon, my son's name is Braylon, him and his little team were like, oh, here we go, we'll play the girls, okay, all this like kind of, I'm like, well, what is this all about? Those girls beat the brakes off of them. It was like an Olympic team. And they're like 6, the girls are like, they're like 6 and 7 too. And I'm like, so all the boys, when the girls won, the boys are crying. They're like, oh, I can't believe we got beat by girls. And I told my son, I said, this is a great example to show you, honey, that we're just as good. So watch yourself, and be respectful, be kind, be humble, right? Show support for all people, women and men. That's a great. I'm so glad he learned that at 6. Now his sister, who's 10, and she's special needs, so she's nonverbal. When I see them interact, she's extremely strong, and so he tries to do little things for her. He's like to turn the TV. She goes and takes the remote and like pushes him away. I'm like, let's go, girls. So that's important, right, to have allies. And I think it's also important to have male mentors as well, because they can get you into rooms that you won't be able to get into sometimes. Ooh, I've been there where I'm like, if I could just give me 10 minutes with this person. He's like, I got you, I'll get you in, right? So we all need one another, men and women, for sure.
Well, I know everybody is dying to ask you questions, but I'm going to ask you one more, and then we'll turn to Q&A. So finally, let's talk about just what it means to you to be honored today.
Okay. I'm just grateful. I really am, because I was telling a couple of my friends of mine that I've been through some trying times professionally. It's been intense in a lot of different ways, and I'm sure we can identify different ways with that. But what I realize is that I've planted a lot of seeds. I've watered them a whole lot in a lot of ways, and that's leading on people that that I've needed wise counsel from, and looking at different positions and just trying to find my way and find my path. And some of those flowers have blossomed, some been prematurely, And what I realize is that it's harvest season for me. That's what I realized. It's harvest season. This is like I'm saying this with all humility. I don't even know which award this is anymore. Seriously, I think I've won about 4 or 5 awards this year, and I'm just like, Lord, to God be the glory. So I'm really just humbled. I'm speechless. I'm in a position of recognizing that it's not me, that God's put me in different positions to be able to uplift women and uplift children and uplift men. So I use this as a platform, and thank God I have this platform to be able to talk about how good God has been to me. And so I'm speechless in a lot of ways. And for it to be, women helping women, that has been a part of my life's work. I didn't even know there was a award that existed for that.
Yeah.
But to be in a position where I'm being recognized for the work that I've done over the last, 20 years is just, I'm really speechless. And I'm recognizing that my life is not my own. My life is not my own. I have surrendered, and I'm saying that publicly. I'm like, God, whatever you want to do with my life, however you want to use me, I'm open to it. So, and on that note, okay.
Yeah.
That was so wonderful. Wasn't that great? I wish we could go on longer and hear these wonderful pearls of wisdom. And I like that harvest season. Just taking a moment to be thankful for those blessings and not just move on to the next thing on your to-do list. Thank you, ladies. So now here comes the part that I enjoy the most, and that's Q&A. So how many of you have questions? Let me just take a sense in the room. Okay. So what I'm going to do is come to you. Unless you want to come up, you can come to the front if you like. Yes. I'm going to hand over the microphone to you, as long as you give it back.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So my question is about mentorship. Okay. And when I think about mentorship, when I was younger, right, you ran into so many great people, professors, even, bosses that I work with. And as you get older, it's hard to find, right, those mentors, right? And so I do rely on a lot of my friends, but we're kind of at the same level sometimes. And so I find myself needing that, right, that mentorship. And so how do you even recognize those people? How do if they're not coming in your life and, you're not surrounding yourself around them, how can you really find that person, right, that can mentor you to be a better person and to grow you within your career, within yourself, all of those things?
I love that. My answer to that would be thinking about initially sort of the profession that you're in. If you're in a particular profession, you find someone that you admire, right? They say, I love the work that they're doing. That's the first step. And you can always pose the question. Now, that doesn't mean everyone is always going to accept. So don't be offended if they don't, because some people say, I just don't have time to do that. I never say no, but that's just me, right? But being in a position where you can seek someone that is in the same realm that you're in that's always the first step. I would also not discount the people that are around you that may be in different spaces. So whether it's community centers that you serve in, or whether it's church, even in this space here, don't discount what's in this room. That if you see someone and that something just calls you to them, don't discount that as not being an opportunity to reach out and say, I would love to get to know you. I mean, it is networking, and I know sometimes networking is like, ugh, but it's necessary. And quite frankly, I'll make this announcement now. A couple weeks ago, I got a call from an executive search firm, she's become a friend of mine. She said, hey, there's a position that I think you should take a look at. Now, I'm not looking, I'm comfortable.
Let the record reflect. She's not looking.
I'm comfortable. But I got a call, and she said, listen, what do you think? I said, well, I don't know. I just happen to know the CEO because I've done a lot of networking. I've done a lot of mentoring myself. And so I met with her, and she said, Jamila, what do you think? And so today literally is my official last day with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I start May 2nd. So I'm the Chief Development Officer for Volunteer Now.
Congratulations. Wonderful.
It's a service organization. I told you I have surrendered. I've surrendered. So it's a service organization. That I'm all about servant leadership. That's what I'm about. So that came through networking, and I would argue that we both have mentored each other in a lot of spaces. And she announced that how every organization has their big, event, and she got up on stage. She said, Jamila, I'm going to announce you to everyone here. It's like 300 people in the room. And she looked at me and she says, I want you to know I'm humbled to have you on the team. I'm looking forward to leading this organization with you. Now, the flip side of that story is I reached out to her about a year ago because I wanted her to come do some work with some consulting work I was doing. I mean, and so that relationship just built over time. I would argue that we've mentored each other, right? So my point is, don't discount opportunities that may not look like the traditional mentorship, right? Like, really be open yourself up to people to pour into you.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
I think she does. Okay.
Hey.
Hi.
First of all, congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
If anybody deserves it, you do. And your new position. Congratulations. I just want to let you know you've been a great friend to me throughout all of these years, but I want to know still, how do you balance it all? Family, work, being a daughter, a sister, religion, working out every day. I know you're not perfect. None of us are. But you seem to, sometimes work and family, that's all some of us have, and that is hard to balance.
Yeah.
So what's the secret, girl?
I don't know, girl. I love you, first of all. I love you. Don't make me cry up here. You were not supposed to be asking any questions on that front row. So that's one of my friends from like second grade. And we're like 45, 46 now. Girl, I'm on 25 forever. No, that's a great question. Work-life balance is important to me because, we do a good karaoke now. We love to have a good time. So I think for me, and my husband, we have this conversation. We've been married 20 years, 22 years. And he's called me to the carpet a couple times. I'm being honest, girl. What are you doing? Like, get this house in order. Y'all know how the men do. Come on now. But I think for me, it's really just recognizing that what's important for the day, and three things that never go away that's always going to be top of mind. That's God, my husband, and my children. Everything else, it'll figure itself out. But critically important to that is, with the God piece, is me taking care of my body. I can't be any help to anyone if I'm not, and I'm not saying you got to be a workout queen. I don't think I'm a workout queen, but, just making sure that they call me Jane Fonda, by the way. But I think taking care of your body, your mind, and your soul is important. So having those moments where you just have a moment to yourself. So I try to take some time out, whether it's reading the Bible, just kind of getting quiet. I recognize lately I've been wanting to take more naps. And I'm like, how do I get these naps in? I mean, even if it's 15 minutes, like just a quick power nap, right, to get myself together. But I think work-life balance is really how you define it for yourself, what's important to you, how you prioritize your life. And relationships is critically important to me. There's nothing that will get in the way of my children, my husband, and my friends. Nothing. And so as a result of that, all these other things, my job, So I am in school. That's what she's talking about. So I'm working. I just finished up all my classes for my PhD. After 3 years. So I'm working. I'm preparing for comprehensive exams right now. And so my goal is to be finished next August. But a part of that was all a part of the plan. So it's around culturally responsive leadership. So it's still it's not off to the side, something different. It applies to my life. So everything that I do at this point in my life, I'm trying to make sure that it aligns with my purpose. So that's what I was talking about earlier. If it doesn't serve me well, then I have to let it go. So everything that I'm doing at this point has to be in a particular vein. And that starts with God, my husband, my children. Obviously, myself is included in that. And just making sure that I'm not burning out. Because y'all know we will burn out, right? And so being intentional when you feel like yourself is burning out. Sometimes you have to just say no. Sometimes you have to say no.
And you shared with me the other day that we go through these seasons. So what work-life balance looks like today could be very different, a year from now or 3 months from now.
Absolutely, absolutely. One quick story. When I was, when we had just had Braylon, and that's a whole testimony. Braylon's 13, but I ended up having him early because I had a huge tumor, fibroid tumor that was growing, and it was a whole situation. So I ended up having him early at 28 weeks, and he's fine. He turned out fine. He's all right. He's just as crazy as he want to be. But my point is, I ended up having him early, and so I ended up having blood clots in my lungs. So I almost died from that circumstance. So it readjusted my thought patterns around what's important, right? And so as a result of that, I was in school. I was at the University of Chicago Divinity School. I was working full time, have a husband. Now I'm pregnant. Y'all know how we do. Y'all know how we do, right? And so as a result of that, I just recognized, my husband said, you're going to have to slow down. You're going to have to, just pause for a second. And so I'll never forget this. He said, I'm going to send you to a hotel. You just go relax. Okay, just chill out. Intercontinental downtown Chicago. I'll never forget it. And he said, go swimming, spa. And I said, okay. So I get down there. Y'all, I wrote a book in 13 hours. Because I had so much on my heart and my mind. I just was so overwhelmed, and I could not get myself together. And so I was asking God, to your point, how am I supposed to do all this? You called me, I got all these talents and gifts and all these people I'm mentoring. Like I'm trying to do what you've called me to do. And God was like, listen. Slow down. And remember, how stops now. And that was the book he gave me. How? I want you guys to repeat it with me. Say how.
How
stops now.
Stops now.
And it's really this sort of pragmatic way of answering your how question in the affirmative with everything. What, where, when, and whom. What do I need to do? When do I do this? Who do I call to help me? Right? So answering these questions. And I guarantee if you answer those questions, you will answer your how question in the affirmative. And so it's based in Ephesians 3:23. If anybody knows that scripture. Yeah. He who is able to do more than you can think or imagine. Because when you unscramble the word how, you get the word who. Right? So that's the basis for my life. Right? I'm operating in this how stops now. Even when the how stops now is sleep. Stop. Pause. Mentor. Take a step back. Pour into people. Pause, right? It's a repeat. Always. And so I would encourage you to do the same.
That is a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us for our EmPOWERing Mentoring Forum. Meranda, you were a brilliant moderator and teased out Jamila's story beautifully. And Jamila, I took notes. And normally when I talk to overachievers like you, I get a little tense and anxious. But because you're living your purpose, I feel very calm and peaceful.
Good, I hope so.
You know, listening to you and everything that you do because it feels aligned with who you are. And I took away a number of things. There are different forms of mentorship. Someone doesn't have to be your official mentor for you to have a mentoring moment with them. Your authenticity and your lessons of resilience. Because you sit up here looking beautiful, but as you said, you've had some tough days. So, you know, thank you for sharing that with us. And both of you were just charming. So thank you so much. And I like the fact she empowered all of us and said that we all have gifts and talents. So let's go out and activate them. And thank you again for helping us with our goal as Texas Women's Foundation to support leadership in women and in girls. So I have a couple of housekeeping things before I let you go. I want to make sure I share them with you. We have a lot more information about both of these women on our website, TexasWomen'sFoundationLeadership.org, or you can scan the QR code that's on the event program. And we're going to start another forum at 5 p.m., but hopefully you have a few minutes to grab a snack, grab a bite, and get to know some of the ladies in the room. Our cocktail reception starts at 5:45 in the foyer, and the award celebration starts at 6:45. So we look forward to having a wonderful evening with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.